Hello, I am 13 and tonight we're going to be playing Goryo's As Fortold. And this deck, well, this deck is a thing. It's like when a combo deck and another combo deck love each other very much, and then they invite their friend who's also a combo deck together, and they make this beautiful little baby here. So this deck has multiple lines of play. It actually has a lot of give to it that you really wouldn't expect. But what this deck is trying to do, first and foremost, is actually bring in Grizzlebrand off of a Goryo's Vengeance. Unlike Grizzlebrand, this deck cannot win immediately when Grizzlebrand comes into play on turn 2, which is a little unfortunate, but the draw 7 is basically drawing you into one of your other game plans, and just hitting for 7 lifelink and then drawing 7 cards is insanely powerful and definitely right up where Modern wants to be at. As far as what we can do after that, we're going to be using As Foretold to free cast either Living End or Ancestral Vision. Ancestral Vision to help us draw more cards in case the Grizzlebrand plan falls through. And Living End will actually bring in the Splinter Twin combo in the form of Deceiver Exarch and Kiki-Jiki. So there's a couple of different ways to go about this, but discarding to hand size, Faithless Looting, Izzet Charms, this deck is just going to go and do a lot of different things. One thing to mention here, we have not set up any partnerships yet, so we're kind of running off the land base I currently have for Magic Online. So the fetch lands are not optimal. They should be Scalding Tarns and Bloodstained Mires for the most part. But we're just going to go ahead and run it as is. We are running a lot of fast lands because they're very powerful for the strategy of this deck. And let's go ahead and pop into Q here. For those of you that were not around during the Splinter Twin days, Kiki-Jiki and Deceiver Exarch will actually go infinite with each other. Kiki-Jiki will make a copy of Deceiver Exarch. The copy of Deceiver Exarch will untap Kiki-Jiki, and then that just goes infinite. All the tokens have haste, so you're going to swing in for however much damage that you end up going out to off of the Deceiver Exarch. And let's see if we can get a match lined up. It should also be worth noting that we are running Relic of Progenitus in our sideboard. It's probably not the best call there. Grafdigger's Cage may be better because Grafdigger's Cage gets around the Living End, but it also stops our Grizzlebrand, which is why we have the Abrades. Fairy Macabre, Leyline are both great. Leyline because we have multiple loot outlets. Again, though, running off the collection I currently have, and this is where we're at. We got our first pairing, and we'll go ahead and take the play here. And why are our fun things not popping up? There's that. Alright, as far as this hand goes, Discovery Dispersals are right. We don't have our second land, though. We're going to go ahead and mulligan that. And we have some action here, so we can make this work. We would love our second land. Go ahead and get rid of Basic Mountain and Deceiver Exarch. Still want to see a couple other cards. Faithless Looting will get us there. Don't want to really have to pay the flashback. And we don't have the mana for Izzet Charm as it's standing. So from what I can see here, opponent is either on Fetch Land Storm, Izzet Phoenix, some type of blue-red control-less, probably Grixis, potentially Death Shadow, although we probably would have seen a black land there. Alright, so we're actually going to go off of Discovery Dispersal here. This will allow us to pitch 2 cards into the graveyard and then draw a card. Seems a little bit stronger than just running out Faithless Looting. The half of this card is going to see a lot of play in a lot of different areas. Alright, so what we have here is a turn 3 as foretold, but we only have our Deceiver Exarch. We do want both of these, but for now we're just going to draw the land and kind of cover the living end on top of the deck in case there is discard, assuming it's Grixis or Death Shadow. The next turn can either let us hold up Izzet Charm if we're expecting something big to come down, just run out the As Foretold, or try to Faithful Suiting into the combo. Alright, opponent is on Jeskai. Young Pyromancer is probably just going to eat the Izzet Charm here. So going to go ahead and lead on Faithful Saluting. Just see what we get. We're kind of happy to pitch any number of things here. We really only need 2 separate colors here. Getting rid of the Dark Slick Shores seems fine. Spire Bluff Canal. And then just so that they can't get anything off of it, we're going to Izzet Charm now. One of the flaws with this strategy is the card disadvantage. Both Faithless Looting and Izzet Charm's loot ability are card disadvantage, which is part of the reason why Grizzlebrand or As Foretold's Ancestral drawing is really crucial to our game plan. Really hoping that our opponent here doesn't just have a handful of counters. A lot of times they have burn for the first part of the matchup and then can go more negate heavy. And it looks like they're on Phoenix. Alright, so this means Phoenix is coming back this turn. So we're going to have to start finding our action pretty soon here. Alright, so options that we have here, I'd actually like to hold the Flooded Strand at this point to loot with. I would be perfectly okay bringing in Deceiver Exarch, although we can get much better value out of our living end. I think for now, though, we want to stick the As Foretold while they don't have counters up. Then we can Faithless Looting hopefully into Kikijiki and just kill them next turn. Holding the Flooded Strand again to discard to Faithless Looting or Izzet Charm, depending on if we draw it. Right now the goal is just to get Kikijiki into the graveyard. And opponent has Cryptic mana up, although I don't believe Phoenix decks are running it because 4 mana is counterintuitive to their current game plan. Alright. So currently looking at 5 damage, can expect at least a bolt, probably a Helix. That'd be 8, 2 burn spells and we're dead. They don't have the red mana for it at the moment. I think just going for the highest opportunity here to kill them is going to be our best bet. If we end up whiffing, we can Ancestral. Now just wondering if it's worth getting the Phoenix and the Pyromancer in the bin. It'd put another Pyromancer on the table. We'd have to find another out. I think we're just on Ancestral. try to draw into the correct action here. And not getting overly lucky with it. We'll ship it back and see if we're dead. So there's the Lightning Helix. So they just need to find 2 more points of damage. 2 cards in hand and a Faithless Looting in the bin. That's not going to be overly difficult, though. And that is lethal. So another concession that we had to make for this deck was actually putting Collective Brutality into the side. There should be 2, probably more, for the life gain. As long as we're here, though, Dispels are going to be fantastic against their burn spells and their counter spells. Probably don't need the negates, as this isn't hard counters. Relic is an option, although I'm guessing we can kill them first. Braids can undo a lot of the work that they're doing and get rid of any of their sideboard tech. It is possible that they're on Rest in Peace as a Phoenix deck. The Phoenix might come out and the Faithless Lootings for more interaction and Graveyard Hate. But I'm assuming that they're not going to be on that. They'll probably just be on Relic or Leyline. I can't imagine Leyline is too strong. They do have the Faithless Lootings to pitch extras or late draws, despite the fact that they can't cast it. As far as what we actually want to take out, Jace doesn't seem like he'll live against a lot of the burn that they have. Maybe just not bringing in all the Abrades here. Is it Charm being able to kill Young Pyromancer or Phoenix also seem quite good. Grizzlebrand gaining the 7 life is going to be fantastic, as well as being our core combo piece. Jace is probably just an altogether cut. A lot of the strength of Jace is in the fact that you can Goryo's him into play, immediately flip him, and then recast the Goryo's Vengeance. But if they have the interaction, that's just a waste of cards there. I'm assuming they have a lot of interaction for Kiki Jiki. We didn't see any Path to Exiles, but we also didn't play any creatures. I assume we can just cut 1 Living End and an Is It Charm and see how that looks. Relic would probably be better as very Macabre there, just because then you could exile the cards you care about in your opponent's graveyard. This hand looks strong enough, though. We'll go ahead and keep this. And despite having the As Fortold, I think we're going to suspend the Ancestral here. If they don't kill us fast enough, that card advantage is just going to come in clutch, and I don't mind paying the 2 life. They're not a straight-up burn deck. Leon Hollowed Found means Serum Visions. Mismatched. So what we're looking out of this Discovery Dispersal is to put probably a Grizzlebrand in the graveyard and a Goryo's Vengeance, or potentially just Kiki Jiki and a Living End. This deck has just so many angles that it can come at that we're happy with a lot of things that we see. Grizzlebrand going into the graveyard. As far as our land drop, we don't necessarily need that. We got the Steam Vents. Deceiver Exarch here having 4 toughness is incredibly relevant against the Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix deck. And if they happen to be running Gut Shot, that might be a little worse for us, but we're probably going to flash into Seaver Exarch and diddle a land. Unless we see a Kiki Jiki, then that means As Fortolled's coming out. So we have the combo in hand as well as the Faithless Looting. Next turn, if Faithless Looting gets us a Living End, we can just win on the spot. Hopefully they do actually Faithless Looting, bend a couple of Phoenixes and try to bring them back. They'll be tapped out and we can draw our Living End and just be good to go. Mentor. That must be a new strategy for if they think their Phoenixes are getting taken out of their graveyard. Mentor won't ever be as strong in Modern as it is, especially in Vintage, where Moxens are available. Legacy, it's alright, but yeah, it just doesn't... It's only good in Miracles, where you're basically cantripping after you've completely controlled their board. Alright, so definitely getting rid of the Faithless Looting here and probably Kiki Jiki. Run out our land, and then let's stop on their upkeep and diddle a land. As Fortold is giving us a spell for free now. And we're going to take their white sources. It's their only unique source. Yeah, that's fine. Surgical is a problem. Eventually, As Fortold, we'll get high enough up there that we can just start casting whatever we want to. Alright, so they're currently at 2 cards cast, and they're tapped out. So I'm going to cast Dispel on this, hoping that they don't have another land in a 1-drop. And this should stop them from being able to Manamorphose into Arclight or Thought Scour and get a Phoenix back. And we will happily take 4 against the Monastery Mentor. So the fact that our opponent tapped out here makes me think that they do have the Surgical in hand, because otherwise we're going to be drawing enough cards off this Ancestral Vision that they'd have to be able to interact with us. So I'm going to try to go for the win here and see what ends up happening. All right. By the way, opponent is a very solid person. He actually did not make us click through that. Seeing the Surgical Extractions make me really want the Izzet Charms back in. Discovery Dispersal is cute and it lets us see things, but that's about all it really does. Seeing that they're on the Mentor plan, does that actually change anything? Living End as a board clear gets a little bit more value. they don't have the artifacts for a braid, so the only other thing here would be Electro Dominance for an instant speed living end, or Ancestral. Also be able to pick off a young Pyromancer with only one counter. That's what Is It Charm does, though. Dispel's going to hit the Surgical Extraction. We could make an argument for Discovery versus Electro Dominance, but it's just probably not worth it. Let's just run it back. Another thing is that this deck only runs 22 lands, but with all the Faithless Lootings and Is It Charms and ways to just be able to go through your deck, you want that power level to it. Grizzlebrand also drawing 7 cards feels super bad when 3 to 4 of them are lands. Let's see, so what does this hand do? It doesn't really look like it does anything immediately, but it does put a permanent Grizzlebrand into play on turn 3. That might be enough, depending on what our opponent's on. I'm okay to see where that goes, though. If it looks like we start fishtailing a bit, we can just put Is It Charm to try to draw into something else. Is It Charm discarding Grizzlebrand is also an option. If he has Surgical and has to go for it on Grizzlebrand, that leaves our combo open. Opponent representing Bolt over... I don't really care. He can Bolt and step if he wants to. It just takes out the power from his consecutive plays in a single turn. Oh, it's Thought Scour. That makes more sense. Opponent is running Spell Pierce. That's another thing to be aware of. Although our Is It Charms are basically how we consider Spell Pierce. Alright, so if we see a land here, which we don't, I'd be more inclined to Is It Charm. Just kill the young Pyromancer. We do have Living End set up, though, so I'm just going to go for the loot effect. Although, general rule is don't do it until you need to, knowing he has Spell Pierce. Yeah, it's probably better just to fire this off main phase. And, yeah, let's just get rid of the combo and set up for kill next turn if we draw a land. Opponent only has 3 cards in hand. What did they mulligan to? I probably should have noticed that. Goes to 5 cards. Probably looking for Graveyard Hate. May have given up at 5 because if you go below 5, you typically still don't have a great shot. Our deck does attack on a couple of different levels, so if they do have Surgical, then we're still typically okay. It is possible we just control the game until he can ask for Fortold out Grizzlebrand. So if they don't happen to find their land here, we can, as Fortold Living End, at least clear their board, even if they do have that Surgical. Otherwise, we win on the spot. And I believe we are currently 1-1, updating the record. There's a Faithless Looting. Phoenix is going to the graveyard. We'll come back this turn. Wow, and he hits 2 of them. I'm impressed. Opponent did a fantastic job crafting their hand. We're going to take a massive hit here. I guess 8's not that bad. If we don't see our land, this is going to be very bad, though. Alright. Let's see what we got. I don't really want to show the living end. Having this many in hand is bad, but we will be able to flash it back if they end up countering us somehow here. We're currently taking 8, 11. Oh boy. So unless they're on anything but blanks, we are dead. So I may as well actually just get rid of a living end. Only having to spell is quite bad. But our opponent's turn 3 attacking for 8 and having 11 power on board is quite hard to beat. Even on a Mold of 5, this deck is very impressive. I still haven't seen what our opponent's white mana is supposed to be doing for them. I guess we did get helixed once. And I guess Monastery Mentor in game 2. Well, if our opponent doesn't have instant speed interaction, or a sorcery speed interaction, or 2 instants, we could actually win next turn. At 1 life. Although Surgical would also stop it. Alright, land there would have been fantastic. Probably going to get Spell Pierced. I guess not. Opponent is saying some nice things in chat. Let's see if we can hide the overlay for a second in the chat. That's just Prime. If for whatever reason you find this video at some point in the future, stand up, dude. Showing opponent hand just in case he was curious. Alright, currently 1 and, well, 1 win. Currently 1 win. Let's go ahead and update the match record. Taking down Just Guy Phoenix. Mentor in the Phoenix deck actually is a very interesting take. I like opponent's thought process on that. You're trying to cast 3 spells a turn anyway. Mentor coming down at 3 mana versus Phoenix being free is pretty big difference, but still pretty good. As far as this hand here, we currently have a Faithless Looting, a Kiki-Jiki, and a Deceiver Exarch, as well as Izzet Charms. So if we find basically Goryos and keep the Exarch, or we find a Living End, all that just looks great. With Jace, I'm just going to pitch these 2 since we know what our turn 2 play is going to be. Some black mana would be nice at some point, though. Again, made some mana concessions for this deck. I actually did buy into this in paper, although I haven't had the opportunity to play with it yet. Having the basic lands feels like it's good against Path and... ooh boy. against Path and Field of Ruin. Kiki-Jiki can die to a lot, but Deceiver Exarch can only die to Path to Exile or multiple burn spells. So having Path to have a fetchable land seems pretty good. There's also Blood Moon considerations. This deck can do a lot off of just having an island in play. And Goryos can come in off of just a swamp. The mountain's basically there because we have like triple and Kiki-Jiki as well as a couple of other things. Opponent appears to be on Dredge and honestly hasn't hit anything too terrible. I should expand that out though. Ooh, Goryos is a fun one. Alright, so what do we want to do here? We don't have fetch lands, so Jace isn't going to flip from fetch lands. Looting with Izzet Charm is going to make it so that we can't Goryo's Vengeance. I think what we're going to have to do here is run out blue, so that we'll have double blue as opposed to triple red. And what do we draw that we actually want to see here? I'm assuming Faithful Suiting is fine. I don't think we're actually going to cast anything here, so let's just loot here. Look for our As Fortold Living End. If we see a Grizzlebrand, that'll be a fantastic draw for next turn. Discard the... Yeah, just discard the fetch land and the Faithless Looting. And then we can fog the Bloodghast. There's nothing we really want to activate with Jace anyway, so we're okay to have him just fog and take a free hit. I guess his plus would have had about the same effect. That might have been a misplay there. The only interaction the opponent could have, though, would be Conflagrate, which means that they'd have to play a land, be able to get Conflagrate into the graveyard, and still only be able to ping for 1. Or, I guess, 6. Block with Jace. So, Jace allows you to block and loot, and then when he transforms, he will flip over into the Planeswalker, removing the creature from combat. Fun little action there. You can Goryo's Vengeance and flip Jace, and then his minus is actually to recast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. So you can recast Goryo's Vengeance that you had initially cast on him. Okay, so what we want here, Faithless Looting or Izzet Charm will see the same number of cards, so just going to go off of Izzet Charm. Draw 2, discard 2. If we see a Grizzlebrand, happily attack in with it. Don't need the lands. And there's nothing really worth casting in the graveyard, so we're just going to shrink this Bloodghast. Our opponent's going to have to hit 4 Creeping Chills in order to give the Bloodghast haste. Or I suppose 2 and a Conflagrate. Goryo's Vengeance also has a trigger at the next end step to exile the creature, so we can actually Goryo's in Kiki-Jiki and block with it, and he'll still go back to the graveyard for the next living end. There's the Conflagrate. So they can Conflagrate and kill Jace. They can also Conflagrate us. They won't be able to mill anymore this turn, so that won't activate the Bloodghast if they hit a land. The Bloodghast can obviously come back, but they won't be able to attack. Please Conflagrate Jace. We can just bring ours back. We can bring this guy back. We can fog an attack and get Jace back. Oh, opponent. I'm sorry, that was not the correct choice. Alright, I would like Jace, so I'm just going to bring him back. We can discard Jace. Oh, we win here. So what's going to happen is we're going to do the pinch cast Deceiver Exarch. When it comes in, we'll untap a permanent we control, which is the land that we use to cast him. No! No! That was the wrong button! Oh boy. Alright, so we could have won there. Instead, we are going to flashback Faithless Looting. So there's the living end. For now, let's just see if... We still have the win, assuming that they can't kill Jace again, which I don't believe they can, so we'll just pass and take that punt. That was a really bad misclick. And there's the trigger to exile the Jace that we brought back, but his text actually says exile him and then bring him back, which makes him a new object. And so he can't be exiled because he's a new permanent. Is Conflagrate a sorcery? Yes, it is. Alright, so this time, can't misclick. We're going to Deceive Exarch. And we're going to diddle our own land. Oh my gosh! Wow. Alright. That is really bad. I just saw the black card in the graveyard and was like, that's it. Nope. That brings things back, just not the way I want them to. They have Abrupt Decay. No, Life from the Loam. Alright, that's fine. Do they have their other Conflagrate? Yes, they do. So they can hit for 4. These Bloodghast won't have haste. Well, this is super unfortunate. We could have won 2 turns in a row and multiple misclicks. How far off are we from the Ancestral? Not too bad. Alright, so I'm going to flashback Faithless Looting. If we happen to see a Goryo's and a land, we still win? We don't, so we still have a basic swamp. I want to be able to get that because that'll be the less damage to us. The least damage to us. May as well shrink one of the... So we're currently looking at no more milling there. They have at least 2 lands from the Life from the Loam in hand. Going to end up getting milled for 5 from the Golgari Thug. Currently taking 9, 11, 13, 15, 16. Alright. We just might be dead here because of the Conflagrate. They're going to be able to ping something for 4. That was so unfortunate. Alright, well, no Creeping Chill there. That's good. Alright, well that was a very easy win that I punted. I apologize for that. So, what do we care about here? Relic can be good. They're more of a graveyard strategy than we are. Negate for Conflagrate seems like it's worth a discussion, although not enough to actually care about. Is it Charm just becomes loot? We don't care about killing any of their stuff. Jace did some pretty good things, but he's just looting and he's slow looting, although I guess that's better than Is it Charm. Discovery Dispersal, pick stuff up, discard isn't that relevant. I think I'd prefer to have the Is it Charm. And I could see just taking out another Living End for the other Is it Charm. We are bringing in the relics. That does hurt us. Not nearly as bad as it hurts them, but we just need to be able to pop that at the correct time. And this is a turn 2 Grizzlebrand, so we actually might be comboing very fast here. And then this is the power of this deck, is this hand right here. It's going to be a turn 1 Faithless Looting into a turn 2 Grizzlebrand, drawing into the As Foretold in a land, and then we're going to combo kill them. Yeah, we're just going to bring both Grizzlebrands in. We're alright with that. Alright, so sticking with the fast lands just because they're the ones that are not going to come into play untapped in the future, so just running those out as fast as possible. Here's Grizzlebrand, we'll go up to 27. Draw 7 cards. What does this hand do for us? We have our Deceiver, Exarch, and nothing else, so draw 7 again. And there's another Goryo's, the Living End, Jace. Still not what we want. They can only dredge 3. But if we go down to 6, if they have Conflagrate, it still doesn't do anything. I think we just want our As Foretold. And there it is. Grizzlebrand gets exiled. We go to cleanup. We have to discard everything. So Jace, be sure to discard the combo. Fast lands. The Faithless Lootings. We've already seen enough of the cards we care about. I don't want to show them the relic if we can help it. But given the number of cards here, we're going to have to. So fast land, relic, relic. Fetch land costs life. Is it Charm doesn't do anything. I kind of want to keep one Deceiver Exarch just in case. So don't care about the relic, the other fast land, or the other fetch land. I need to get rid of 2 more, so that can just be basic and I suppose another Jace. Well, that was one of the few ways I was concerned about losing. If they had another land and a Bloodghast, we'd die here, and that is most unfortunate. Conflagrate, I suppose, kills us here too. That might have been a misclick from opponent. Alright, As Foretold. Cast Living End with As Foretold. We'll keep that Jace. We're going to untap Kiki Jiki, hold control to keep priority. We're going to make a copy of Deceiver Exarch. Alright, so note to self, it is possible for them to blind flip the Creeping Chill and hit Bloodghast. That is totally something that can happen. I suppose that means that we need to not go as low with Grizzlebrand. We could have easily just brought back another Grizzlebrand the following turn and got taken a little bit slower. Do you think that this configuration is fine? They know about the relics now. I think our game plan just might be stronger than theirs. I kind of like the Electro Dominance for that reason. And may as well bring in Living Ends if that's the case, go back down the Izzet Charm. I'm not exactly sure what's correct here. We're both graveyard strategies. He can come back just as easily as me, but mine matter more. And the Fairy Macabres are probably the best choice. But instead we have relics. So this hand is a turn 1 Faithful Saluting, see where it goes, turn 2 J still allow, and then turn 3 start diddling with Deceiver Exarch. I think that's fine. Ancestral Vision is not here to suspend on turn 1 versus fast strategies like this. It's to see more cards off of As Fortold if you're running out of gas, or to get card advantage against the control decks. So running out the fast land, Faithful Saluting. So we have fast lands for days. May as well get rid of the shocks. Ship it back. Opponent does not have any enablers here. Life from the loam for a single card to get the enabler running. I suppose that's a good reason to keep the relics in. Alright, so I would like to flip Jace here. We didn't see our fetch lands, which is another reason why the fetch land mana base helps. If we had properly built our mana base, we can just run out Deceiver Exarch and diddle a land. I think looking for our combo, our opponent's a little bit slower here is our best call. So I'm going to run out the other unique fast land, have 2 of each color. Flashback Faithful Saluting. They'll take a card out, but put 2 back, allowing us to flip our Jace with 5. That'll be Grizzlebrand in the fast land. Loot with Jace. Just get rid of the other fast land, and then no targets. And then it's on our opponent to have a lot of cards, a lot of stuff here, and 1 card in hand was the Arid Mesa. Alright, so they have Loam in hand, can pick back up Arid Mesa. They will not have another enabler, so they have to do that. Assassin's Trophy. Alright. I am perfectly okay with that. I believe we want an island, just because most of our hand is blue. Taking a shock here so they can pick up the 2 Arid Mesas. I wasn't aware that Dredge started running Assassin's Trophy. Kind of makes sense. I just hadn't pieced that together yet. Alright, so I need As Fortold, Living End, Goryo's Vengeance. Not seeing a lot of the pieces to our combo here. So what do we actually want to do? I can Faithful Saluting, Deceiver Exarch, Jace, because Deceiver Exarch is functionally 2 mana. That's probably our best bet. Leaving the most blue up in case we have to do more things. And we can just hardcast Kiki Jiki, so let's get rid of the Ancestral Vision and the fast lands. Oh, no we can't. We only have 2 reds. Oh well, that's fine. Our opponent clearly doesn't like Jace on the field, and we can just run out another one. So they're going to dredge the life from the loam. They did find another Creeping Chill. Lightning Axe to kill Exarch is definitely some tech they can run. I suppose the Assassin trophies were in the sideboard and they brought it in for Grizzlebrand. Cracking the Arid Mesa because they have to put their Enabler back in their graveyard since they still haven't found more Dredge. Alright, so if we find a red source here, we win. Oh, we had the Misty. Just discard the Deceiver Exarch. We can go get our Blood Crypt. Oh my gosh, the lands. The lands are painful. Alright, so what can my opponent do that I actually care about? Izzet Charm can stop the first round of Conflagrate, not the second at this point. I think I have 2 activations for Faithless Looting, and I think I'm just going for the win here. So I'm going to cash in a little bit of Jace here for the Faithless Looting, plus side being if we see Goryos, we just win on the spot. Which we don't. So that can actually get Blood Crypt. Although we don't need it anymore. Living End is lethal, so we'll just hang on to that. And if they hit a Creeping Chill and a Bloodghast, I can still block it with Deceiver Exarch, so we're going to keep it back. We're going to win off the combo kill here. Found a second life from the loam. It is always a possibility they hardcast a Creeping Chill. So 10 is a valuable life total because of the Bloodghast trigger. It's 10 or less life. I'm actually going to shriek the Narcomoeba here just so that they have to do something in order to be able to swing in. It may have been ambitious last turn to go for the Faithless Looting when I could have just targeted the Izzet Charm, but our current position right now is probably just hold up Deceiver Exarch to interact with whatever they're doing. And they hit a Stinkweed. So their engine's about to actually get started for real this time. And I still like Deceiver Exarch in hand. I think our opponent's out of fetchable lands. Although that might be a check for it. Nope, had a second Blood Crypt. And a hard casting Bloodghast. They should at least still have another Swamp. Alright, now let's start thinking about statistical significance. So I can hold out Jace, although their Stinkweed is going to start being active and start being able to hit for a lot. There are 33 cards left in my deck. 4 of those are Goryo's Vengeance. 4 of those are As Fortold. Did I board in the Electro Dominance? You sideboard. Yes, I did. 2 of those are Electro Dominance, so there's 8 cards I care about. I'm also perfectly okay seeing Faithless Looting or the other 2 Izzet Charms. I think we just have to cash this in and go for the win here. We have like a half chance of drawing something that we want for each draw. And still nothing. Alright, so I don't care about the land. The other living end doesn't do anything. If they mill into Conflagrate, they can loam and then cast Conflagrate for 7. We do need to put out the Deceiver Exarch here. They'll get us to 10 so that the Bloodghast are hasty, but it won't be able to actually attack in through the Deceiver Exarchs very profitably. Wow, and yet another land. Alright, so we're going to be taking 3. They're going to be milling 5. I believe they have 2 Creeping Chills left. This has been a rough draw. We had several cards that we were happy to see, and there's the Conflagrate for 6. We're going to be taking the 3. Loam is going to pick up 1. I believe we're dead. Oh, they can crack the Arid Mesa first and then Loam. We're actually very dead here, but we'll make them see the line. Narcomoeba comes in. Still have 2 pickups. And then the Conflagrate. We'll take them down 1 card to be at 5. Pick up 2 lands. Unless he's just Conflagrating now. Trying to figure out why he couldn't loam. That makes sense. Well, that was unfortunate. Had a misclick and some super rough draws. So between Electrickery, As Fortold, Faithless Looting, Izzet Charm. I mean, I know I made 1 or 2 play mistakes there with Jace, but we had several outs that could have just ended the game, and we never saw them. Not seeing 12 cards in your top half the deck is pretty painful. The mana base also caused some issues there. If we would have been able to fetch out a Mountain or Blood Crypt or any type of red land there, we could have hard casted Kiki. So we are currently running 2 Misties off color, a Flooded Strand off color, and a Verdant Catacombs off color. And in reality, a couple of the fast lands probably need to be fetch lands as well, with 1 or 2 more shocks in them. Overall, not bad though. I mean, it definitely put up a fight against Dredge. And it looks like we won the die roll. Our opponent has a nice Shark to Crab. So this hand doesn't enable the graveyard at all, but it does have a turn 1 Ancestral, turn 2 Jace, turn 3 Discovery. I think that's worth running out to see how it works out. This is probably a mulligan. I do just like the curve, so... Forest. Looks like it's elves, potentially budget comboed. Okay, so that's a turn 3 Grizzlebrand. Black Cleave comes down. Mono Green shouldn't have an answer for this. If they do happen to be the Abzan Coco list, which is the budget noble, they might have Path. Looks like elves, though. Definitely elves. Alright, so... Loot with Jace. May as well just drop the Discovery Dispersal. We have an engine going on. Oh! Oh well. Better to be lucky. Alright, discard Grizzlebrand and I suppose the fast land. Bring in Grizzle Daddy. This deck has a lot of lines, and I'm not familiar with a lot of these cards on Magic Online, so I do apologize for all of the puns here. Alright, so we have a Goryo's into a Kiki. We need to draw into Deceiver Exarch. Next turn we're probably looking at most 8 damage. I'm willing to take another 7 here. And there's Deceiver Exarch. So exile Grizzle Daddy, move to end step, get rid of fast lands. Definitely the combo. Grizzle Daddy. We need the As Fortold. Oh, we don't have the Living End yet. Oh, well, that's fine. Get rid of... Faithless Looting's going to see some cards. Get rid of the off-color fetch list, since we already have shocks in hand. Need to get rid of 1 more, and I suppose that's just going to be the... We have... Get rid of Blood Crypts, that we have 2 blue sources. And let's hope our opponent can't kill us. Oh, we had lethal for next turn if we kept the Deceiver Exarch in hand. We had Goryo's Vengeance and Kiki and diddle our own land to get the mana for it. Oh, that works too. Alright, so... First, let's loot with Jace to see if it changes anything. Guess let's get rid of Faithless Looting at this point. Put out the land, we'll take the shock. Deceiver Exarch. Untap a permanent we control. Just be sure to get a black source. Bring in Kiki Jiki. GG's opponent, thank you for not making us click through it. Alright, so I believe Electro Dominance is probably going to be the best for bringing in instant speed Faithless Lootings. I'm not overly concerned about Coco, so Dispel and Negate aren't considerations. Braids are probably better on the play to get rid of their mana dork in case they keep an iffy hand. Is It Charm will take out most of the little dudes or the First Lord. They're also our looting engine. As Fortold is casting our living end. This deck's also supposed to have a Talaria West so we can tutor up the living end. Discovery Dispersal is a little cute, and the second half doesn't really mean anything. And then I suppose a Jace, just because fogging a combat step from a Swarm deck's not going to do a whole lot. Shark to crab. It's even a treasure. I'm expecting a lot of people to draw those. Alright, so one of the other lines that this deck can take is actually to be on the draw and discard a hand size. It's better when this version of the deck is running the Simian Spirit Guide for the fast mana. We have no mana, so this is a mulligan, but that is something to consider. As far as this hand, we get blue color of our choice. We can Ancestral on turn 1. We have Scry into Jace. Jace can start binning things, find other pieces. Considering how much of this deck requires multiple pieces, I think Jace looting into something is good enough. I don't want to go to 5. The card disadvantage from Izzet Charm and Faithless Looting is quite substantial. So this could potentially be a hand we want to hard cast Kiki Jiki. We definitely need Izzet Charm. I believe red is the correct call here, although Goryo's is probably a reason to take black. Jace can discard Kiki and then next turn play Deceiver Exarch, Goryo's, and Kiki, but that's going to require 2 more lands, one of which is probably going to be black. Ooh, an opponent kept a 1-lander with a mana dork, but we kept a 1-lander without a mana dork. And Heritage Druid means a lot of mana for our opponent. Nile Sentinel means even more mana. Alright, infinite mana. Let's see if they have any payoffs in hand. This is starting to get pretty unlikely that we have something here, though. We basically need to draw Electro Dominance and a... There's the Beast Whisperer, which means they're probably on Saffron Olive's Elf Ball list. But they ran out of gas here. And we cannot catch a break. So opponents on infinite mana with card draw. If they start going off, we're going to scoop, just because what this does is Nettle Sentinel will untap any time that a green spell is cast, and Heritage Druid will allow them to tap 3 elves. Actually, we're just going to F6 here for green. So they get to tap 3 elves for green, cast an elf, tap these 2 and the new elf, and draw 2 cards. So if they just show us 1 more creature card, we're scooping, because this is deterministic for them at this point. Probably not, but it's like 98, 99%. Not going to make them play through it. They didn't make us play through theirs. Seeing the Beast Whisperer Braid is looking more important, especially after watching them keep a 1-lander. Probably don't need the full count of them, though. And Ancestral's probably not what we want to do here. They're going to combo off faster than us if we're waiting on Ancestral. Alright, so this just needs a Goryo's. You can also shoot down something or loot. Opponent mulls to 5. Probably means we're going to be more likely to Izzet Charm their mana dork if they have one. 5 also might mean no mana dork. Ooh, definitely taking a Heritage Druid. Especially with seeing the Faithless Looting, that's going to be our discard outlet, so we'll see how bad their hand was and see if we can punish them for it. Because if this is Nettle Sentinel, they would have had infinite mana. Alright, so we have a short turn of breathing room. Just going to get out the As Fortold, hopefully start free casting, multi-spelling every turn. Alright, so gonna see if we just have the win here. If we have the win, have to do it off of Faithless Looting. Or not off of As Fortold. And there's the win. GG's opponent. And that's exactly what we want to do with this deck. We even took turn 2 off to interact with them, and still were able to kill them. Hi Darth Juggalo, how's it going? Oh, I need to update the record. Alright, this hand does some fun things. What deck do you play in Modern? Starting off with the Ancestral there, just because we don't have any way to cheat it into play. If we do cheat, we're probably going to be putting Living End into play first. And Discovery is looking a little bit better just because we might need the counterspell text in that one. Perfectly happy to put Jace in the graveyard and make our third land drop against control. Nice, Storm. Have you seen that Waste Not Storm deck? That actually looks like a ton of fun. Alright, so hopefully our opponent's going to try to do something on their turn so we can diddle a land and then hopefully find our Kiki-Jiki and Goryo's Vengeance. I mean, even hitting with Grizzlebrand and drawing 7 is going to be pretty game-winning here. And thinking going after the colored sources here is going to be the best bet. Ooh, Path. Love that. Please ramp us. I'll happily take that. So if we see a As Fortold here, I think we win. That's leaving up all of our colors, if I could tap properly. Alright, so that's just going to run out another Deceiver Exarch. Not the best, but I'm alright with that. And life total typically doesn't matter against control decks. They can't pressure it enough. When they win, it's going to be through a ton of advantage. Alright, another good reason to keep running out these Deceiver Exarchs is to try to clear the way for Ancestral Vision. If we can resolve that, we'll at least get back up to the card parity with them. Ooh, and they're already blowing the Cryptic. And that was probably a mistake off the path to exile. I really should have grabbed a mountain so I could hardcast Kiki-Jiki if I saw it. Okay, so ton of new cards here. Kiki-Jiki is going to be lethal, especially while they're tapped out. Hitting with Grizzlebrand is going to be fantastic to draw 7 cards, but I'm just going to go for the win while they're tapped down. Yep, there's a Kiki-Jiki. Oh, I needed a land there too. Okay, so looks like it's just going to be Grizzlebrand, but do I want to do it now or during their end step? I have 2 Goryos, so I could technically do both. I think we're just going to grab them now. From the other side of this, you just can't come back. Also make sure we hit our land drop. And we don't have a non-tapped black source, so don't believe there's any reason to Discovery Dispersal. The second half of this actually has text now. We can make them pick up their Planeswalker and discard it. So let's just put out a tap land, exile Grizzle Daddy, and put another one back in the graveyard. And fast lands can go away. So the timing for actually going for the combo is going to be on their end step. Goryo's Vengeance says that we have to exile it at the beginning of the next end step, which means we'll have it for our turn. Because we have a lot of redundant pieces here, we need to pressure their mana on their end step so that we can go for the win. So for now, I'm just going to run out a meaningless Jace. They probably can't do much about that because they know our hand is stacked, and then ship it back to them. Field of Ruin. We still have an island left in our deck, but I don't believe there's any reason that we need to float mana. We're not going to be doing anything on our turn. We need to pressure their turn. I'm actually going to set a stop on our opponent's upkeep. They could potentially run out Jace and put Terminus on top of their deck, and that'd be a little hard for us, so I'm going to try to tap down some of their mana at the start of their turn. They're still going to have to interact with us. And hopefully interacting here will mean that we don't have a Terminus in our immediate future. Yep, bounce Jace, don't really care about that. So they have to run into oh, nope, alright, that's the win. So bringing back Kiki Jiki. Play Deceiver Exarch. And, yep, thank you, opponent, for scooping. Classy move right there. Alright, so Dispels come in for the counter war, Negates come in for the Planeswalkers. The Electro Dominance can stay into the sideboard because Living End isn't an effective board clear at instant speed. Is it Charms text for counter target non-creature spell becomes incredibly relevant, so that's staying as a 4 of. This half of Dispersal is pretty good, but it being a sorcery. Oh, that one's actually an instant. Yeah, that can snag a Teferi, so that's probably worth keeping. Ancestral Visions is really good. Living End for the cheese kill isn't as effective, so that can probably just come out. The Ancestral Visions will pull more weight than any of the Living Ends will. Relic really only stops Snapcaster and Azcanta. I know a lot of Gabriel Nassif's videos have been cutting all the Snapcasters from mainboard relics for the Phoenix deck, and that's kind of a common strategy at the moment, so I don't even think that's going to hurt our opponent if they're on a current list. We need to cut 3 things here. Goryo's Vengeance just does way too much. Jace sticking is going to be our value planeswalker. Being white, they likely have Rest in Peace. There should probably be 2 Ral Izzet Viseries in our sideboard for this matchup. They would end up coming out for the Goryo's Vengeances just because Rest in Peace does really stop what we want to do for that side. The card Disadvantage of Faithless Looting is probably cut 1 or 2 of. And maybe just a Grizzlebrand because that's less likely to get pulled off. We still want this game plan to work, but it's going to be much less likely it does. And we have Jace, Izzet Charm, Dispel, As Fortold. As Fortold ticking up is probably going to be one of our better cards. This is worth keeping, although it doesn't do anything explosive. And because I'm not expecting to have to do anything here, I'd rather get my tapped red source as opposed to just running out Darkslick for Dispel. Alright, this should probably bait a path from our opponent, possibly their one of Spell Snare. His ultimate to mill is actually going to be pretty relevant here if he flips over. They have to have Detention Sphere to answer him if he flips. Alright, so opponent likely has Logic Knot here. Holding up Izzet Charm, Dispel seems great, but the sooner that we start suspending this Ancestral Vision, the better. Although we know we're going to loot with Jace, so we should probably start with that. And that's why we started with that. They still haven't jammed a Rest in Peace. The Goryo's is going to be a little hard to pull off after they've seen how it works, so I think we're just going to wait for now. As Fortold is likely going to be a counter war, so I'd like to have a little bit more mana before going off, and if that means waiting turns, Ancestral is going to come down by that point. I'm kind of okay starting a war over this. He's our only pressure at the moment. And if we start emptying everybody's hands, we'll actually get ahead more on board because we have the opportunity to draw a lot of cards. Wow, the multiple Dispel hand. Alright, wanting the Mountain here in case we have to hardcast Kiki Jiki. This also means our As Fortold is going to stick. If our opponent decides to tap down, we do have Izzet Charm into Goryo's as a 2-card combo. We will have to draw into some action, but... Oh, they don't even have their Cryptic mana. Again, I'm good to fight over this. Our J sticking is actually going to be a ton of advantage in our favor. Every card we draw and goes into the graveyard is advantage for both sides of that coin. Plus, if it flips, they have to answer it with something that could also hit As Fortold. Okay, so flipping Jace here, Geist would be able to kill it if we don't find any action, which it looks like we did. And then as long as they're tapped out, we're going to hard cast Kiki Jiki. We can always cast it for free, cast Goryo's Vengeance for free off the As Fortold. And this makes it so that guys won't be able to kill Jace. Yeah, so opponent is very concerned about Jace. Again, I'm happy to trade Kiki Jiki here. We'll see if they actually have the path to exile. If they do, that'd be a little unfortunate. If not, we can always bring it back with Goryo's Vengeance, assuming that we can find something. So if opponent has Cryptic Command, Ancestral's not going to do much. He does not. Okay, so what fetchable lands in blue do we still have? We still have our Watery Grave and Basic Island. Opponent has Field of Ruin, so that's probably not the best use of our time. No targets for Jace at the current moment. We want to be able to get to 3 so that we can flash back looting effect like Is It Charm. And probably just want to run out this Jace anyway. Make our opponent aware of the fact that there's going to be another one if they can't answer the first one. Restoration Angel. Do I care about that? Not really. Yep, feel free to kill that Jace. Gonna flip over a new one. And getting kind of close to hardcasting Grizzlebrand. And there's the mana hardcast Grizzlebrand. So, gonna use Deceiver Exarch and Goryo's Vengeance to try to... Actually, let's loot first. Oh, we can win here. Assuming they don't have counter spells. Yeah, so gonna go for the Deceiver Exarch for end step with Goryo's on Kiki, make them interact with it. Hardcasting Grizzlebrand is not a bad alternative game plan. And opponents showing that they don't have mana, so going to cast the Deceiver Exarch here to tap down the land now. Jace being able to flash back twice in a row is relevant. Yep, that's still all fine. Gonna hard cast Grizzlebrand now. And 1 damage face doesn't matter. This is why shocking doesn't really matter against control. It just doesn't do enough. Or we can just win the hard way. Just top deck the win condition. Then we'll see if opponent's nice enough to scoop up again. They are. GG's opponent. Alright, so currently 3-1. The one loss was against Dredge, and it was a pretty bad misclick on my part. Let's go ahead and queue up for game 5. For anybody new to the stream, this is the deck that we're playing, Goryo's As Fortold. The best win condition here is the Splinter Twin combo, just as you saw. Deceiver Exarch, untapping Kiki-Jiki, Kiki-Jiki, making a copy of Deceiver Exarch. This goes infinite. You can swing in for infinite damage. That's why our opponent scooped up, is he's seen it before. The other things that our deck is trying to do is use Faithless Looting or Is It Charmed to put Grizzlebrand or Kiki-Jiki into the graveyard so that we can Goryo's Vengeance and bring them into play for our turn. As you just saw, you only have to do that the correct turn for Kiki-Jiki to win. Grizzlebrand in game 1 versus Control is just draw 7 cards and just out-card advantage them. And then we also get a cheat on mana with Living End and Ancestral Vision, casting them for free. Just does some really powerful things. Grizzlebrand drawing 7 cards, discarding to hand size, following it up the next turn with As Fortold Living End, bring all the stuff you just discarded back in, get a permanent Grizzlebrand, Splinter Twin combo, just such a strong deck. And this hand actually does not do much. Looking at this, Is It Charm is going to have to pull a lot of weight here. I'm not a huge fan of that idea, but going to go ahead and keep it. We are on the draw. That means that we're going to see 4 cards by turn 2. Can figure out which way we need to start going towards. Basic Swamp is an interesting lead from our opponent. As we're not playing anything on turn 1, I think I'm just going to start off with a fetch land, make them think that we're possibly Control, and then go get one of our lands. Since our fetches are off color, the number of lands they can fetch out is kind of minimal. Oh, and they're Living End. Great, looks like both sides will be going for Living End. Ours is an infinite combo, though. Should be at least a little favored in that. And we have 2 blue-red sources. We need a black source, so going to look for Watery Grave off this Flooded Strand. And Goryo's Vengeance means a turn 3 Grizzlebrand, possibly a turn 3 kill, depending on what we see off of this. Is it Charm? Or if our opponent goes for Living End, we can just discard our Kiki-Jiki and our Grizzlebrand and have some fun laughs. So those of you unfamiliar with this, their deck actually uses the same card we do, Living End. Each player removes all creature cards from his or her graveyard from the game, then sacrifices all creatures, and then puts the ones in the graveyard into play. Short version, graveyard comes to play, play goes to graveyard. They end up running a lot of expensive creatures with cycling to discard and draw a card, and then they cascade into it with a card like Bloodbraid Elf, not in this case, but you might be more familiar with that than Dread Return. So their entire deck is expensive creatures that go into the graveyard pretty easily, and then they bring them all into play and just beat you down. It's a pretty linear game plan. Opponent has something to say about this. Just cycling an Archfiend? Oh, this is them Violent Outbursting. So, Cascade, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Cascade means they're going to reveal from the top of their deck until they reveal a card with less mana cost. So that's going to be this Living End here. They cast the Living End, the creatures in the graveyard come into play. Ooh, alright, so we're currently looking at taking 9, 13 damage, which means we have the win here. assuming we see a living end. No, we need the win on turn 4. We're going up to turn 3. So we'll end up playing Deceiver Exarch, undiddling a land, and then Goryo's Vengeancing and Kiki-Jiki for the infinite damage. Might actually just Deceiver Exarch on our turn, on their turn to tap down an attacker. It seems like a better line. And then if for whatever reason they can kill it, the only card they run is Boom Bust, deal 2 damage. Then we still have Grizzlebrand as an option. That could actually be a problem if they have an instant speed cycler. It could mean it delays us a turn for while we're comboing off. Alright, so is there anything that we absolutely have to do here? We'll be at 4 mana. We Goryo's in, Kiki. Kiki starts to combo. They boom us. We end up having 15 damage on the board for Crackback. Yeah, if they happen to have their interaction, this could potentially be bad. I don't believe it's enough to actually deter us from going for the win, though. So that works out. Another alternative was they cycled twice to kill Kiki-Jiki or just cycled once during the attack step. Assuming our opponent doesn't have any action, though, we can Discovery and look for an As Fortold living end. If they have another Violent Outburst, though, they can end up putting our Grizzlebrand into play, which it looks like they might just be trying to get a creature on the board. And let's see if they've got it. Unfortunately, if they do kill Deceiver Exarch, this is just going to be a loss here. We can chump block and try to go for the win otherwise, though. Alright, thank you, opponent, for not making us play that out. So Living End is unfortunately a sorcery, so Dispel won't work against it. The Electro Dominance is probably going to be worthwhile for an instant speed living end. We probably need to bring ours in to negate theirs. Basically, this is going to be a game of controlling who has board, who has graveyard. Discovery Dispersal seems like an okay turn to play. Jace isn't going to be very effective because of the summoning sickness. Izzet Charm can also snag the living end. Our opponent did correctly time living end, so they didn't correctly time the cycling to kill Kiki-Jiki, but I don't think they knew what we were doing yet. Ancestral Vision, just not going to cut it here. Relic is a consideration. We don't need our graveyard to go off. They kind of do. Relic would probably be Discovery Dispersal. That might be our best shot here. Electro Dominance can also just ping a creature if we end up needing it. Alright, turn 1 Faithless Looting, turn 2 Living End. Show me the money. So our build is not running the Simian Spirit Guide for the more explosive starts, while theirs actually has it. They showed it to us last game. So that might be a little hard for us, but it should be alright. And didn't see anything we actually wanted. So again, our weird fetch land mana base is making this a little hard. All that's left now is Steam Vents, Watery Grave, and Island for the Misty Rainforest. So definitely getting rid of one of those and probably getting rid of, let's see, Verdant could grab Blood Crypt, Swamp, and Watery Grave. Yeah, probably just another fetch land. I don't really have enough to be throwing them away at the moment, but they're just not the lands I want to see on turn 2. Especially all 3 of them. Alright, I'm on the game plan of stopping my opponent from comboing, so I'm going to assume I'm not taking a ton of damage here, and I'm going to run out Relic. And that was a mistake. If he's running fetch lands, I should have Relic'd as soon as I could to get rid of the creature. Alright, our opponent's on the monkey plan. So I believe I'm taking the hit for 2 here, and I'm going to do Deceiver Exarch at instep. No, that's not right. Opponent's clearly got no action going on. So I'm going to untap a land here in case I need to pop Relic. I think it's highly unlikely. It could be Simian Spirit Guide into Faithless Looting, though, and you could just go for the value. Interesting. He's going for his first living end here. That actually works out pretty well for me. I'd prefer Deceiver Exarchs in the graveyard. And then the exile here is because Demonic Dread is possibly the worst card, so he would have gotten rid of it. He's going to want to keep creatures in his graveyard. And general rule of thumb for Relic is you want to make it so that they have less options. You don't want to give them the opportunity to put down a fetch land and exile a land they don't care about when we could be working towards a Simian Spirit Guide. And as an opponent looks like he's not on anything at the moment, going to Is It Charm. If we see a Kiki, we just win. I'm happy with all these cards, these two probably being the worst. Alright, so what does that leave up? I've got Faithless Looting, discard Spire Bluff Canal, one of the two new bad cards. Oh my gosh, the misclicks. And different action was taken. Alright, so do we want a Faithless Looting here? It'd potentially mean getting rid of the negate. I don't really think that's worth it. So you always want to play towards your best out, not to correct your last mistake. I could have Faithless Looting there, but if I drew two cards I wanted in my hand, I'd have to discard two cards I want in my hand. And Suspended Living End. Okay, gonna try this again. So Electro Dominus is instant speed Living End. As Fortold's probably a later late game. If I get As Fortold running, I really don't need the Living End. I kind of want to make the land drop in case I have to pop Relic here. 2 Deceiver Exarchs isn't much from my discard pile. So yeah, Electro Dominance probably just doesn't do enough. So we have seen 2 Living Ends from them. That means that they can only cascade into 2 more, although they're hitting the point they can start just playing their draft commons that cycle. Okay, that is kind of a clock against us since we can't block it. Keeping Electro Dominance probably wouldn't have been a bad idea. They just scooped it up. Alright, well, ended up going 4-1 with Goryo's As Fortold. The one loss was versus Dredge, and I completely punted that. I punted 2 turns in a row, and we could have easily won that. So this is a powerhouse. It does very powerful things. The problem, though, is there's a lot of random cards just thrown together and said make a combo. We do have very powerful combos, but if you only see a third of the combo you're going for, then it gets a little awkward in the draws. It is quite powerful, though. Like, Splinter Twin Deceiver Exarch is always going to be powerful. Casting for 0 at instant speed with Electrickery is just fantastic. Being able to draw 3 off of Ancestral Vision or 7 off of a Grizzlebrand is just backbreaking for the decks like Control. They just could not stay caught up after I drew 7 off of Grizzlebrand. He just did way too much. Overall, though, this deck is a ton of fun. Like, if it should really show something that these are a lot of kind of fair cards that are out of their normal shell. Like, Grizzlebrand, I guess, isn't necessarily a fair card, but I take that back. They're all basically unfair cards, but they're doing it in a way that's not their standard linear deck. There's a lot of different outs. There's a lot of different angles most people don't see, like casting Grizzlebrand to draw 7 to discard into a future Living End is something that isn't exactly obvious until you start running with it. Either way, I had a ton of fun with this deck, and I'd highly recommend it. It does some things that just are so unique for the format. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and have a good one.